American Express may have realized how much money they were leaving on the table with the Cobalt Card, and they've made some pretty sizable changes. So the big question is the Amex Cobalt still the best card in Canada in 2025, or has something knocked it off its crown? Let's break it down. Welcome back to their CreditVerse channel. My name is Alion, and I'm on a mission to make you just 1% smarter with your credit cards, because traveling better for cheaper shouldn't be a secret. Today, we're gonna walk through the updates to the Amex Cobalt. We'll talk through the earn rates, the perks, and most importantly, how you can extract maximum value out of your points. And of course, we're gonna end it off with the question you all have been asking: is the Cobalt still the best card in Canada in 2025? As I mentioned earlier, let's kick things off with the changes coming to the card. Amex has increased the monthly fee of the card from $12.99 to $15.99 per month, starting November 5th. This makes the yearly cost go from $156 to $192 per year. $36 per year is not a huge difference, but if you were previously really teetering on the edge of value and really considering whether it's worth it to get this card, this might really warrant another look just to see if it's worth holding onto. Now let's dive into the bonus. A bonus, often also called a welcome bonus, is a number of points you're going to earn on a card after spending a certain amount of money. It's how credit card issuers often entice you to apply for a card, as they give you a bunch of points upfront and they expect you to be spending money over the lifetime value. So if you hold on a card for 3 or 4 years, them giving you like 10 or 20,000 points upfront is usually pretty solid value overall. Now for the Cobalt specifically, the bonus really isn't a reason you should be thinking of adding it to your wallet. For the last little while, it stood at 15,000 American Express membership reward points. You get 1,250 points for every month you spend $750 on the card over the course of that first year. It's worth about $300 when you redeem it for travel, but don't worry, we're gonna hop into that a little bit later. There's a special, slightly elevated 22,000 MR point offer for this card if you use certain refer a friend links. Not everyone has this, but there are a couple of links that are out there that can give you access to this slightly better offer. If you have a bunch of friends who already had this card, I would suggest reaching out to them and seeing if they had this higher 22,000 point offer. Or if you're the first of your big group of friends who's ready to add this card to your wallet and get a bunch of free travel for free, please consider using the link we have in the description below. It doesn't cost you anything. You still get the exact same bonus you would applying for the card directly, but it does help out the channel quite a bit. Now let's dive into the real reason people love the Amex Cobalt so much: the earn rates. Earn rates are simply just how many points you earn on the card through your day-to-day spend. So for example, any grocery you get, when you go out dining, use public transit or an Uber, all that jazz ends up becoming your earn rate for the card overall. The Cobalt earn rates are really strong. The 5x earn rate on grocery and dining is the highest we see in Canada, and it's definitely a really solid reason to get this card, even if you aren't not spending much on the rest of the categories. Over the course of an entire year, you can rack up tens of thousands of points even if you're spending quite modestly just in the dining and food delivery category. I hope you're not spending nearly as much on your streaming subscriptions, but in the case that you do have a couple of those laying around, like Netflix, Disney+, Fubo TV, there's a whole list on Amex's website. You will still get the highest earn rate in Canada for that as well. There's also 2 points per dollar spent on gas, transit, and ride shares, which is again a pretty solid earn rate to have. It's something that can really rack up a bunch of points over the course of an entire year. Finally, you earn 1 point per dollar spent everywhere else, including really notably on travel as well. They used to have a higher earn rate for travel a couple of years ago, but Amex again felt the value was a bit too strong there. And this card is really meant for more of a lifestyle focus anyways, so Amex got rid of that and now you earn 1 point per dollar on travel. Now I know what you might be thinking, but Alion, no one takes Amex in Canada. And that might have been true about 5 or 6 years ago, but I think since then, times have certainly changed. Almost everywhere I go, other than the usual suspects I know of, like Costco of course, which just takes MasterCard, and Loblaws branded grocery stores, pretty much everywhere else will still take Amex, even a lot of those shops that you may not consider. This also was the point where we thought it would be interesting to see how many points you'd earn over the course of a year spending on this card. I know it's not the most scientific, but I took my spend for a bunch of different categories, and I took a bunch of my friends' spend for those same categories, and I kind of averaged it out and saw how many points you'd earn over the course of a year. The final value we got to was about 52,800 points. Again, there's going to be a ton of variance here based on your own spending patterns, but we want to use it as a rough guideline to see how much these points would be worth later on in the video. If you watched last year's video, you'll probably remember that this card runs a little bit lean on perks, and honestly, I think that's okay. In my opinion, the biggest perk here is Amex offers. Amex offers are effectively coupons or rebates you get to a bunch of different stores you may be shopping at. To find these, you can go onto the app, click the Amex offers tab, and you'd be able to scroll through the options available. Candidly, I will say that these have gotten a little bit worse over the last couple of years. Gone are the days of getting that like $250 back on a $500 United Airlines offer, but there are a couple of interesting ones that really pop around and stuff you might be able to extract a little bit of value out of. One I've been using, and I'm not really proud to admit this, is the $60 Instacart credit. It's broken down into $5 increments over the course of an entire year, and since I order grocery over once a month, it's just a nice $5 discount I get every single time I order my groceries. The other notable perk that I thought would be pretty interesting to mention is Amex Front of the Line. This perk works both for getting access to pre-sale tickets and also at the venues themselves. I will admit I'm not the biggest concert goer, so I'm able to extract maximum value out of this every single year, but I do know a bunch of my friends go to Oshega every year and they get access to the direct line, so they don't have to stand at the normal line, and it can save you 30 or 45 minutes, especially on those busy days. I did go to a few F1 races over the last year, and I will say that I got a bunch of free goodies and things I wouldn't have gotten otherwise through just having an Amex card and going through the Amex booth. Once again, I'm just going to wrap up this section by saying perks are not really the reason you should be getting this card, but to add a little bit of value, they're a nice thing to have in your back pocket. Travel coverage is also not the strong suit of this card. It's pretty passable, but if you have any other cards with any decent amount of travel coverage, I would definitely be using those to book things instead. You have flight and baggage delay insurance, as well as burglary insurance for again your baggage or in your hotel room. Of course, you have the standard out-of-country medical insurance that pretty much every card under the sun has, and one of the two things I think the card does well on the insurance front is having a pretty high cutoff for the rent-a-car insurance. It has $85,000 of coverage, which is towards the higher end of the band we've seen, and on the same level of the Amex Platinum. One notable thing missing is trip cancellation or interruption insurance. I personally think this is probably the most valuable of all the insurances to have, just because we have those long, unpredictable winters in North America, and you don't exactly know if your flight's gonna be canceled or delayed, and any amount of those delays can absolutely wreak havoc to your entire travel itinerary. I wouldn't call it a deal breaker, but it's something I would probably really consider if I'm booking a flight with this card. That being said, the best part about this card, and something I'm not sure why every single card in Canada, especially at this level, does not have, is mobile device insurance. This card carries it. It's worth up to $1,000 for 2 years on your card. Again, you must be using this card to either pay for the phone itself or to be paying the monthly payments on your phone. There's a bit of a caveat here where pretty much every flagship phone now, or honestly every new phone released, is over $1,000, so you're not really getting maximum coverage by any stretch. But again, it's a nice thing to really consider, and in the case you do destroy your phone or it gets lost or stolen, it's something that you might be able to use in that odd occurrence. Now, as promised, let's talk about how you can turn these points into thousands of dollars of free travel. Luckily, Amex has made it pretty simple here, allowing you to transfer your American Express membership reward points to a host of airline and hotel partners. To keep it pretty simple in this video, we're just going to talk about Air Canada Aeroplan, which is a one-to-one transfer partner of American Express, meaning one Aeroplan point is equal to one membership reward point. In the first year, we estimate you'll earn about 70,000 points for this card, 15,000 from that bonus, and then an additional about 55,000 or so from your spend over the course of a year. We know earlier in the video we mentioned 52,800 points, but I'm putting a bit of variability in here just to keep a bit of a rounder number for some of the redemptions we're going to use. If you want to swap your CN Tower views for some views of oceans and mountains, you can take a flight from Toronto to Vancouver for 12,000 points one way. You can take 2 of these trips round trip every single year, and still have about 20,000 points to spare. As a Canadian, I'm sure you know how brutal the winters are here. Luckily, Air Canada makes it pretty easy to escape, with flights to a lot of sun destinations for under 12,000 points one way as well. I saw a lot of redemptions for about 22,000 points round trip, and you can take 3 of these trips over the course of an entire year, which I think is pretty solid value. Moving towards Europe, surprisingly, you can find a lot of these redemptions round trip for under 60,000 points. I've seen trips to London, Portugal, Spain, Germany, Austria. There's a host of different countries you can go to for under 60,000 points round trip, or perhaps a touch more than 60,000 points, which I think are pretty solid ways to use your points as well. If you want to experience some of the finer things in life, there's also options to go business class one way for 60 or 70,000 points. The option to fly directly from Canada using Aeroplan's partners would be through Lufthansa, Swiss, Austrian, and TAP Air Portugal. If you're open to making a connection to the US, things can become a lot more interesting, also with a bunch more award space, with you being able to take United or even Singapore Airlines' fifth freedom routes. Of course, this means you'll have to find your own way back, but if you really want to experience one of these really fine things with your bonus, you can find a $300 or $400 one-way trip in economy back from a lot of places in Europe, if that's what you're really into. That was a very, very short primer on how you can use your points, Well, we have made a full video, which we'll also link in the description below, talking through all the ways you can use your MR points and what's the worst and best value. So considering all these things, is it really worth it? I will say the case for the Cobalt is getting weaker and weaker every single year. The fact of the matter remains though, that it has such a massive delta over the rest of the cards that it's still definitely one of the strongest cards in the entire country. Unless they get rid of the 5x multiplier for dining and grocery, I really don't think anything else can take away its crown, because again, as I mentioned, the delta is just super strong if you're using it as a workhorse card. That being said, if you aren't completely sold on the Cobalt, there's a couple of other options in the Canadian market that could be quite interesting. There's two cards I've come up with here, and interestingly, both these cards are American Express Gold cards. The first is, surprise surprise, the American Express Gold. This card has a much stronger welcome bonus at 70,000 MR points, and has a lower net annual fee once you consider the $100 annual travel credit. This is actually the card you recommend to most people starting out instead of getting the Cobalt, because the value is just so much better. Unfortunately, the earn rates here are significantly weaker, but that being said, I still think most people would actually come out ahead getting this card and putting all their spend on it compared to getting the Cobalt, just because the difference in the bonus is so high. Another option you may want to consider is the Scotiabank American Express Gold. This is a card issued by Scotiabank that runs on the American Express network. This means you can get you some pretty solid earn rates on a lot of your day-to-day spend. You earn 6 points per dollar at Empire grocery stores, as well as 5 points per dollar at all other grocery stores, as well as dining and food delivery. It has really solid earn rates across the entire board, but something really interesting to think about is the fact that it doesn't earn American Express MR points, it instead earns Scotiabank Scene Plus rewards. You can use these points for much more than just going to the movies, you can use them for travel as well, but they're a fixed earn rate of 1 cent per point. Taking a look at the effective earn rates you'd be getting on these Scotiabank cards versus things that earn American Express membership reward points is where you would certainly find a bit of a delta. But it's still a decent option to really consider if you are okay earning Scene Plus points and just redeeming for the standard 1 cent per point travel value figure. We've also linked the rest of the cards we talked about through this video down below in the description. If you are looking to apply, we would really appreciate if you use these links. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it's the best offer currently available on the market, but it does help the channel out quite a lot. With that, I'm going to wrap up today's video. I do hope that you feel at least 1% smarter with your credit cards after watching this, and be sure to let us know down below if you will be adding this to your wallet. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.